Okay, page 32, graphing linear equations. Okay, what you need to make sure that you remember about graphing linear equations is what a linear equation is. I'm going to put a little asterisk here. Linear equations, and remembering that the smaller word in linear is line, are equations that graph straight lines. So linear equations graph straight lines. Linear equations graph straight lines. Examples of what that looks like is that you might have an equation that graphs, and this part is a review. You might have equations that graph lines that have positive slopes, where the line goes up. You might have an equation that will graph a line that goes down, which is a negative slope. You may have an equation that when you graph it, the line is horizontal. It lays flat. Okay. Lastly, you may have an equation where the line is vertical. Okay. These are different kinds of lines that you could possibly be graphing. Lines that go up, lines that go down, lines that lay flat, or lines that go vertical. The equations for lines that go up in most cases are written in y equals mx plus b form, or you may see it as y is equal to, and the b may come first, plus the mx. The m is always going to be the number that's attached to the x. Okay. The same for lines that go down. You might have an equation that looks like this, y equals mx plus b, or it could look like this, where you have b first and then the number that has the variable attached to it, x. I'm going to pause real quickly so you can process. Okay, so here, please make sure that you stay muted so that people can hear me. If you have a question, please interject and ask your question, and then afterwards, keep it muted so that other folks can hear me, okay? Thank you, guys. All right, so you could, when you have an equation or a line that looks like this, the equation is going to be y is equal to a number of some sort. Nothing else, just y is equal to a number. No x, no nothing. You just have y is equal to a single number. You might have y is equal to 7, y is equal to -5, y is equal to 11, y is equal to 25. If you have y is equal to just one number or a single number, your line is going to be flat. Equations where you have x is equal to a single number is just going to be straight up and down. It's going to be a vertical line. So anytime you see x is equal to a single number or a number, just a number with no y equals mx plus b, but just x is equal to 7, or x is equal to 11, or x is equal to 20, that line is going to go straight up and down. Pause to let you process. So now we're going to write steps. I'm going to write the steps for graphing linear equations. So that's what I'm going to write here. Steps for graphing linear equations. Steps for graphing linear equations. And I'm going to try to put this in 3 steps. I don't want to do any more than 3 steps because then that's a lot to remember. I'm going to pause to give you a chance to copy. All right, step number 1. Equations must be in slope-intercept form. Super important. That equations must be written in y equals mx plus b form, or b equals mx, or b is equal to, or y is equal to b plus mx. Except for these two types of equations right here, where you just have y is equal to a single number or x is equal to a single number. You can graph these just the way they are, and I'll show you how to do that in my examples. So sometimes you'll have y is equal to just a number, and sometimes you'll have x is equal to just a number. And these are the easier type of equations to graph. So number one, equations must be written in slope-intercept form. And we talked about a form is the way something looks. So equations that look like this, y equals mx plus b, where of course m is a number and b is a number. Or y is equal to, you can put b first plus the mx, the number that has an x attached to it can go last. Doesn't always have to go first. I'm going to pause to give you a chance to write. Number two, the second step, is you're going to label your m, which is the slope, and your b, which is the y-intercept. So let's write that in. Label. So we have label, m, and your m again represents the slope, which is the steepness of a line, the incline of a line. Okay, its steepness. And b, which is your y-intercept, your starting amount, or where the line crosses the y-axis. So b is called the y-intercept, or your starting amount, or your initial value. You're going to write m as a fraction. So this is very important. Write m, write your slope, as a fraction. Okay? So that, yes, babe. So here, your m you write as a fraction so that you can label your top number as your rise and your bottom number as your run, okay? Where your rise is going to tell you to go up or down, and your run is going to tell you to go from left to right. If your top number is a positive, you're going to go up. If your top number is a negative, you're going to go down. Run, you only run from left to right, okay? You're either going to run from left to right. If your bottom number is a negative, you go to the left. If your bottom number is a positive, you go to the right. So when you're graphing, you have to write m as a fraction. You have to, so that you have a rise over a run. So Ms. Reyes, then, if my slope is a 2, then how do I write 2 as a fraction? To write 2 as a fraction, you just put a 1 under it. So that way, you will have a rise and you will have a run. So m, you always have to write it as a fraction so that we can use it to graph. Okay? And I'll pause to give you a chance to write. All right, step number 3. We're going to graph B. So we labeled our B. You see where we labeled it? Now we're going to graph it. You're like, Ms. Reyes, how do you graph a single number? You're going to find that single number on the y-axis. So you're going to graph B on the y-axis. That's why they call it y-intercept, because you're going to graph it on the y-axis. So you're going to find B, whatever number B is, you're going to put a point on that number on the y-axis. And you're going to use M, this is my M, my rise over run, to create other points. And then you have a line. And it's okay if right now at this point you're like, what in the world is that lady talking about? The steps we're going to use, or the steps are going to make way more sense when we actually do the examples, okay? The steps are going to make way more sense when we actually do the examples. And I'm going to pause to give you a chance to write. All right, so now we're going to do some examples. So we're going to go back to our independent practice. Okay, and I showed you where that link was on our week 7 page. You've already done day 2. If you didn't, please go back and watch the video Monday, and Tuesday, and I showed you how to do this. If you still have more questions, then please make sure that you ask me after class, okay? Or in tutoring today. So now we're on day 4. We don't have a day 3 because remember day 3 is Wednesdays, and we have our flex Wednesdays. So now we're gonna do these examples, okay? I'm gonna do number 1, number 2, number 5, and number 6. You're gonna do these 2 on your own, okay? So you're gonna do 4 and 5 on your own. All right, so we're gonna use our steps to try to zoom in just a little bit. We're gonna use our steps to graph these equations. And this is an equation here. The first step tells us to, look, equations must be written in slope-intercept form. This equation is written in slope-intercept form. How do you know, Ms. Reyes? Because look, y is by itself. Y is on the side by itself. You have a variable x attached to a number, and you have a number that has no variable attached to it at all, which is very similar looking to this. Okay? So that's step 1, just identifying the fact that this is a linear equation. Step number 2 is we're going to label M, which is the number that's attached to X, and we're going to label B, which is the number that has no variable attached to it, and make sure that M is written as a fraction. So let's label M and B. So here in this problem, our M is the number that's attached to X. So our M here is going to be the fraction 7/2. That's the number that is attached to X. Any questions about how to identify what the slope is? So now we have a rise. The top number is a rise, and the bottom number is a run. We're going to label B. Our B is going to be the number that has no variable attached to it. So our B is going to be this -2. Since this is a -2, our B is -2. If it was a +2, our B would be a +2. So since it's -2, our B is -2. Any questions about how you label M or B? Last step. Okay. This is the last step. We're going to graph B on the y-axis and use M to create other points. Okay. So we're going to graph -2 on the y-axis. -2 on the y-axis is 2 below the origin. It's right here. This is -2 on the y-axis. This is how I graph this. I'm going to use 7/2 to put points or to put other points. So I start here at my B, and my rise is a +7. So that means I'm going to go up 7. My run is a +2. So that means I go to the right 2. And I'm going to emphasize that up here. I wrote it in our notes, but I'm going to rewrite it on this paper again. Our rise tells us how far to go up or down. If the rise is positive, go up. If the rise or the top number is a negative, you go down that many spaces. Run, again, is left to right. If the bottom number is a negative, go to the left. If your bottom number is a positive, go to the right. Any questions about that? Yes, you always start with B. Okay, you always start at B and use M to put other points. So yes, you always start here with B. You're so welcome. Great question. So I'm going to start here with B and I'm going to go up 7 because it's a positive 7. So watch how I count. I go up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, up 5, up 6, up 7. And to the right, 2. So I'm going to go over 1, over 2 to the right. This is where I put my point. If I had more space, I would do it again. I would go up 7 and over 2. To put points in the other direction, because I won't always have space to go this way, I would do this backwards. So my M could be like this. Since the opposite of a positive 7 is a negative 7, the opposite of a positive 2 is a negative 2. And remember, guys, this right here, a negative divided by a negative is the same as saying that it's positive. So this is equal. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. A positive divided by a positive is a positive. So if I want points in the opposite direction, just do it backwards. Instead of going up 7, go down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Instead of going to the right 2, go to the left 2. 1, 2. Down 7, I don't have enough space. So all I can do is just 2 points here. And this is my line. And I'll pause so you can copy that down. All right, so number 2. This is written in y equals mx plus b form. So that's that first step. Second step, we label our m and our b. Our m is the number that is attached to the x. -6 is attached to the x. Remember to write m as a fraction. So to write this number as a fraction, all you do is just put a number under it. Put 1 under it. That's all you have to do. The top number is our rise. The bottom number is our run. Or another way to write this, the opposite of a -6 is a +6. The opposite of a +1 is a -1. They mean the exact same thing, guys. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. They are exactly the same. Label B. B here is 3. The number that has no variable attached to it is a +3. So B is +3. And I'll pause to make sure that you have time to process. All right, so now the next thing we do is we graph. Remember, I'm following these steps. We graph B on the y-axis. So we're going to find +3 on the y-axis because that's called our y-intercept. +3 on the y-axis is 3 up from the origin. This is 1, 2, 3 is right here. This is where we start. We're going to use our slope to create ordered pairs. So here, -6 is telling us to go down 6. +1 is telling us to go to the right 1 time. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to the right 1 time. This is where I put my point. Down 6, 1, 2, 3, and I don't have enough space. If I want to do points in the opposite direction, go up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and to the left one time. 1, 2, 3, not enough space. So all I can do is just 2 points here, which is fine. Please make sure you extend your line and put arrows at the end. You see how I made my line? Don't make a short line. Make a long line. Because remember, these lines should go on forever. Yes. Yes. If you have more room to do more points, then you need to make sure that you do as many points as you can using Rise Over Run. Very great question. All right, so now we're going to do 3 and 6. Okay? So number 3, remember we have y is equal to just a number. You look at this, you see y is equal to just a number. So that means our line is just going to be a flat line. It's going to be, let me slide my picture up. Sorry, y'all. You see when y is just equal to a single number, that means you're just going to have a flat line. When x is just equal to a number, you're going to have a vertical line, an up and down line. So here, y is equal to just a single number. So you find -5 on the y-axis. -5 on the y-axis is right down here. It's 5 from the origin. And all you're going to do is draw a line through the y-axis. So it's going to be a flat line. Anytime you have y is equal to a single number, the line is going to be flat. It's going to go through that line. It's going to go through that number on the y-axis. The slope of this line, of course, is 0. That's why you don't see an x value, because there's no slope. Okay. This time you have x is equal to a single number. Look at this. Anytime you have x is equal to just a number, only a number, the line is going to go up and down. Okay? So here you have x is equal to 5. So you're going to find 5 on the x-axis. +5 on the x-axis is right here. And you're just going to draw a line through it. Draw a line through 5 on the x-axis. Okay? The slope of this line is undefined. Any questions about that? The difference between these two is that you just have y is equal to a single number. That means your line is going to lay flat. Here you have x is equal to just a single number. That means your line is going to go up and down. All right, I will start you with number 4, but you're going to do 4 and 5 on your own. Your m for number 4 is the number that's attached to x, which is 6/5. Your b is the number that has no variable attached to it, which is going to be 1. Remember another way to write m? The opposite of a +6 is a -6. The opposite of a +5 is a -5. Okay? Remember that positive divided by a positive is still going to be a positive slope. A negative divided by a negative is still going to be a positive slope. These two are the same. Questions about that? All right, guys. I need you to finish up 4 and 5 on your own. Tomorrow, in my video, I'm going to go over how to write equations for 1 through 4. And then I'm going to show you again, or to give you another example of how to graph. I'm gonna do probably 2 of them, and you'll do the other ones on your own. Do not forget to watch the video tomorrow to do your independent practice. I'm going to stop the video here.